If you're a H2 Math student, graph sketching is usually one of those free marks that you'll get in the exam. But whenever it comes to sketching modulus graphs, that's when a lot of people tend to mix up the difference between these two because the order matters in transformation. So I want to run you through the difference between these two and how the outcomes will turn out differently as long as we apply the operations, the same operations in different orders. So for the first one over here, right, from fx to get to modulus x plus 1 with the 1 inside the modulus, we got to go from x to modulus x first, right? And then from here, we go to modulus x plus 1, right? This is for the first graph over here. But for the second graph over here, we actually got to apply the transformation in a different order, right? For the second graph, we actually need to go from x to x plus 1 first, and then to modulus x over here. That's how we end up with the second one here, and that's how we end up with the first one over here. But what's the difference, right? We know that the transformation is different, but what does that mean in the context of the graph? So I'm just going to sketch the answers exactly on this graph over here. If we apply the first one, what that means is that we will first flip, right? We will first mirror against the y-axis first. So we will mirror first, then after that we shift. So what that means is that we will mirror first. So in the end, we have a graph that looks like this, right? We will mirror this first, and then we shift the whole thing to the left by 1 unit. So in the end, we end up with a graph that looks something like this, where the middle point now is over here, right? So we know that the graph for the first one will look like this, right? It's gonna have a mirror image. So I'm just gonna draw one line up, down, and then up to here also, right? And then we know that this whole graph over here will essentially shift to the left by 1 unit, and eventually here and here, the highest point over here now would be 2, 4, and then over here it will be negative 4, 4 over here, right? And then here will be negative 4, and the middle point will still be here corresponding to 2, whereby here would just be negative 1, right? Because we shift the whole graph to the left by 1 unit. However, for the other case, which I'm going to draw in blue over here, what we do is that we first shift the entire graph to the left by 1 unit. So what that means is that you can think of it as the original graph exactly as it is, but the first thing you do is you shift the whole graph to the left by 1 unit. So you shift the whole graph to the left by 1 unit first, and then you mirror. So when you do this, eventually your graph will look like this, right? It will shoot up here, and then we have a small valley here, and then you'll go down here like that, right? Whereby here now the center is also still 2, 4, but here it will just be minus 2, 4, right? And that's the slight difference between the two, even though it looks like it's exactly the same. And this time the y-intercept will be different as well, right? Because we shift first and then we mirror. So to all H2 Math students, if you're still confused with this style of graph sketching, especially in the context of modulus, watch this video next to find out how you can get more support in your learning, and more importantly, get more practice for this style of questions that will certainly come up in the exams and maybe even their A-levels this year. So if you're struggling to understand your JC concepts, be it if you're in J1 or J2, we all know that H2 Math can be very difficult, especially when your school goes through the concept very quickly, and in the end you're just forced to learn everything by yourself. But fret not, because what I've done is that I've created an entire resource, a whole library to teach you the H2 Math syllabus from scratch. As you can see over here, I've literally filmed a course for every single chapter, so from sequences and series all the way until the end, which is your correlation and regression, right? The last topic in J2. So for all 16 chapters in your H2 Math syllabus, I filmed a course for every single chapter. And for example, if we take a look at sequences and series, what I've done is that I've broken down every single chapter into modular portions again, right? So for the first part over here, under learning objectives and learning materials and resources, what you can do is you can download all of my handwritten notes that I've created for this chapter, and also just use it for your own revision. Apart from that, I teach every single chapter from scratch again. So for instance, let's say the definitions of sequences and series, right? This is the first concept. I literally go through in depth over here and teach you the concept from scratch. And not only that, but you will also be able to get hands-on practice with my guided approach through showing you how to tackle the usual type of questions that usually come up for exams, as you can see over here, right? So I go through every single question in depth, go through every single question in detail, so that you will know how to tackle these type of questions in the exam situation, right? So I don't just give you the answer, I give you my thought process as well. And I basically do this for every single chapter in the H2 Math syllabus. So if you want to get your hands on this resource, it's super helpful in helping you to really get crystal clear on what it is that you need to learn in your syllabus and what things that you can ignore so that you don't waste time. And if you want more information about this library, be it if you're in J1 or J2 or even a private candidate, this resource will help you in your revision, and you can literally self-study the whole subject all by yourself just by referring to this. For more information about this library, WhatsApp the number on the screen over here, and I'll send you more details about the library, as well as more information about our premium 24/7 turnaround marking service that we provide for all library subscribers. I look forward to seeing you on WhatsApp over here.